Welcome everyone to the third part of this introductory series to the Chessable course. So the third part is, all the other first moves from white. So obviously c4 or knight f3 are the two main ones, but moves like f4 and g3 are covered as b3, for example. So in any case, I would like to start with knight f3. So obviously the main challenge and the main point for black here is to try to reduce the possible transpositions to lines which we are actually not playing and try to limit white's tricky move order options. The first move is kind of easy since it's a Queen's Gambit declined repertoire, so it's d5. Now if white were to try c4, then black can just play e6 and it will transpose to the 1c4 move order, so this is not a problem at all. And if they go b3, for example, then we can play bishop g4, and this early bishop g4 move is something which we also recommend against 1b3, so the Larsen opening. So again, not really a problem. So the two main moves in this position are, g3 or e3, but like what is really critical here is g3, like the Reti opening, which because e3 can happen from other move order as well, so I will show it there. But after g3, of course, white wants to play with bishop g2, short castle, and then they can play with d3, so that would be the King's Indian attack with knight bd2 and e4, or they can play with d4, trying to transpose into some version of Catalan which we are not playing, or they can also try c4, which may lead to the game to English voters. So a lot of different options. That's for sure. So therefore comes the move in the repertoire, which is knight to d7. So this is a little bit strange looking move. It's a relatively new discovery, like 5-6 years ago, I believe it was discovered that this move is quite interesting. We are actually not playing it with the main point of this move, but for now it's very good because it creates the threat of e5. So against what it is very good. So for example, your opponent wants to play the King's Indian attack, they play bishop g2, and you can immediately play e5. And if we play like this, there is no King's Indian attack. You know that this is, I can also make it on the board. So for example, knight f6. This is how a lot of games are going. d3 castle, and let's say knight d2, c5, e4. So this is the King's Indian attack. White wants to play with e5, then h4, like rook e1, bring the knight around, and so on. So attack our king. On the other hand, if we play bishop g2, e5, then you can see that this plan is stopped already at move 3. So they are never going to attack us in any way because our pawn itself is on e5. So basically with this, the King's Indian attack is completely stopped. So they can play d3, we play knight f6, they castle, and one more like kind of important move, c6. So just to make this diagonal very strong against the g2 bishop. And then we can decide, depending on what white is doing in the next move, where to develop our bishop. But I believe it's already a success because like Réti is not dangerous here, like to play King's Indian attack is not dangerous here. So this is already quite comfortable for black. So white can try different type of things, but they have to be a little bit careful. So for example, if they try d4, then we can play simply e4, and after knight e5, there is a tricky move with knight b6, and actually the knight on e5 is already in a lot of trouble. So black is already better in this way. So another line which white may try is to start with castling, then knight f6, and they tried d4 now. So you can see that if we would play similarly with e4, knight e5, now it's not good to take because de would be just a tempo on the knight, and the d pawn could be also maybe exposed. So that's not good, and here in the course we just recommend a simple solution with e takes d4, and once white takes back, we again just play c6. Black's position is extremely solid. We will just develop the bishop probably to c5, then castle. And yeah, it's not really a theoretical position anymore. And I would say black's next moves are pretty easy. Something like this. So that's the solution against bishop g2. Some people try c4 here. It's quite rare. Here the move is to take it, and depending on what white does, for example, if they play like bishop g2, black can try to keep this pawn, I mean, for quite a while. For example, castle, now we don't touch our e pawn because we want to develop the bishops like this to g7 and e6. It's absolutely not easy to get this pawn back. So now the knight is doing a great job by protecting the pawn and not by supporting e5. What is happening quite a lot is d4, but that's already a big success for us. That's basically we eliminated white's one knight f3 move order entirely, because once we make this move of knight f6, so when this move knight d7 was discovered, they wanted to play like knight b6, bishop f5, which is like a very decent line for black, but we don't even need that one, fortunately, because after knight f6, we play this type of Catalan. So they go like bishop g2, then we play e6. And anytime they play c4, it will just transpose immediately to the Catalan opening. So this Réti treatment is connected to that Catalan line. So bishop e7, if they play c4, we play castle, queen c2, a5, and so on. I already showed this in the previous video. So this really reduces the workload here. And if they try to play without c4, that's also analyzed in the course, but it's really not only not dangerous, it gives like very easy position for black. We can just develop the bishop, push c5, and have good position. So yeah, this knight e7 is really seriously limiting the options what white can do, or at least it limits the options what they want to do. So this is the solution in the course against the Réti move order. As I said, white can play e3 in this position, which is rather popular in higher levels, but after knight f6, there is no reasonable move here than other than d4, which would be just the colle, or rather c4, what they play. But after e6, we just transpose to the one c4 move order, which is the English. So that's about knight f3. I would say it's theoretically speaking and training wise, it's quite easy to learn from the course. And there is one c4, obviously a little bit causing more problems in a way. We cannot play d5 now, but okay, we play e6. And if white wants to play the English, they play knight f3 or g3 in this position. Like, there is literally nothing else. If they play something like knight c3, we play d5. And I mean, since we want to push, they eventually play d4 and then we just transpose. So yeah, knight c3 is not a challenge. I mean, they can play e4, and in this way we can actually end up in the French defense, which may scare you a little bit, but so this version of the exchange French with c4 we can end up. cd5 is also analyzed. That's an easier line for black, I believe. After d4 again, like we don't really want to study the theory of the French defense. Like that's not what the course is for. So after knight f6, knight c3, the most standard moves, there are many different systems and relatively long lines in this opening, starting with bishop b4 mainly. I believe c6 is also possible, bishop e7 is also possible, so there are like different options, but so if, as you saw in the first part and second part of this series, which I am recording, and what you will find in the course, that we really want to make sure that there is not like a whole lot of moves to study, or I mean, since the course is kind of in a maximalist, done in a maximalist way, there are a lot of moves, but many of those are just illustrating some points. So here the move is bishop e6. So white reduces the options for white because it simply attacks the pawn on c4. So white already has to make a decision. For example, a very natural looking move queen b3 is already a mistake because we can play knight e6. So this pawn is under attack, and also queen can be exposed to knight to a5. Queen b7 is not working. I believe simply knight takes d4 is good, or knight b4. So this move is not working, and if they take, then we already managed to clarify the situation in the center, and our development will be just knight to c6, pawn to h6 to stop any knight coming here, and bishop b4. Basically, whatever white does, these are our moves, I believe, and we can just calmly play against the IQP on d4. So that's about the French. They can play with the move order of g3. Obviously, d5 is coming, bishop g2. And here, instead of avoiding this lines, for example, if you would go like knight f6, they can go knight f3. And if we continue in our way to getting ready to play against the Catalan, unfortunately, white is not forced to play with the d pawn. So they can play b3 with thousands of games. They can play with d3, which also has become quite popular. And I'm not sure what other line exists here, but these two is quite big. So yeah, we don't need that. And to cut off any transpositions, the recommendation is d4. And yeah, after this, obviously, white cannot play d4, so there will be no Catalan, there will be nothing like that. Most expected move is knight f3. I mean, this will be played 95% of the time, or even more. There is a tricky move of b4. So this a little bit disturbs our setup, which, as you will see, features knight c6. Now we cannot take because of queen a4. We will lose the bishop, but on the other hand, we can play e5. It's a little bit maybe strange that we are moving the pawns like 2 times, but yeah, I mean, we occupy a lot of space, and computer even likes such ideas later, that to attack on the king side very quickly, because I mean, white also, where will you develop these pieces? So yeah, this is pretty good for black. So yeah, normally knight f3 is coming here, and that will lead to this more common move order of second knight f3. So d5, and here one final crossroad in the English, I would say, is whether white wants to play with e3 or with g3. So if they play with g3, as I already showed d4, we want to play bishop g2 and knight c6. So this come into popularity when Carlsen played it against Nepomniachtchi in the World Championship. So the point is that we don't want to play c5, which looks very tempting because it would allow a reversed Benke gambit with b4 or a reversed Benoni with a lot to study. So instead we play knight c6, not giving any easy targets for white, and once they go castle, we play like bishop to c5. And depending on what white does next, so if they play e3, then we develop the knight to e7, so it will be closer to support the d4 square, and if d3, then knight f6 is the line. So it's analyzed quite a bit because it was recommended for white in the book of famous analyst and correspondence player, Chessable author as well, Nicolas Nitrilis. So that's why it's analyzed in a big detail, but we already have some space advantage, and I would argue that if white is not sure what they are doing, it can be quite unpleasant for them. So yeah, that's about the G3 way. So this is the variation what we recommend, and E3. So this is of course also possible, knight f6. So now white can play d4, of course, but then we always have this a6 move, which I already showed in previous videos. The same goes about knight c3. So if they go knight c3 again, we can play a6 and try to invite white to a transposition. What was maybe the most tricky move of all is this b3 move, because then white is delaying the development of this knight on b1, also not saying where this pawn will go. Will it go to d4? Will it stay? Will they take on d5 at some moment? And it's really easy to choose a line which, like c5 is okay, but then we have to be ready to take, and bishop b5, take, and bishop e2. Different versions of IQP and so on. Same goes for b6. Really difficult to train these lines or to put those in a way that it would make sense for a trainable or a move trainer version, that you can make actually difference between the lines. So these moves are fine. Bishop e7 is fine, but really difficult to study. So therefore we recommend d takes on c4, which the surprising move, but it really simplifies black's task, the opening. So if white is taking back with the bishop, then we play c5, and we will just make, these regular moves of some queen's gambit accepted, let's say. By the way, there are many queen's gambit accepted type of positions in the course, so if you like that opening, you can do that. You can study that. So yeah, this is not so critical because white can develop easily. Sorry, black can develop easily. White is likely to castle long, short, rather. And then yeah, if they go d4, then it just becomes symmetrical and quite equalish position. So in general, b takes c4 is it's imbalancing the game more, and what black has to be careful about in this position is that if white is tricky and making waiting moves, that at some moment g4 can come. So it's all about that here. So we play c5. Moves like d4 are absolutely not dangerous. It leads to normal hanging pawn possessions. So for example, bishop b2, b6. So point is we are not rushing with the development on the king side, because then g4 could be a little bit annoying. And okay, in this way it's completely prevented if we keep the bishop on f8, because then the pawn is covered. So white goes knight c3, bishop b7, bishop e2, knight c6. So sort of a waiting game, and it's, if white wants to go with g4, it really is useful that this trade was included, because castling long would lead to a less than ideal king possession for white. So yeah, this is still analyzed. There are basically no games here, but it's still analyzed. If you will have it, you can have some knowledge how this game can go. But yeah, really this important point is d takes on c4, which really eliminates a lot of lines. So that's about c4 and knight f3. I mean, as you can see, it is quite limited, and the transpositional weapons from white are also almost fully eliminated, I would say, with these direct move orders from black. So what else in this third part of the course is, for example, a move like b3. But okay, here the recommendation is again like the lines. White can try different move orders, but our moves are like pretty much the same. So we play d5, we play knight f6, and whether white plays e3 here or knight f3, we can play with bishop g4, solve the problem of the bishop, and then it's explained, when we want to go back to h5 in some cases, or when do we have to play h6 to give some escape for that bishop. It can be, sometimes be similar to like a torre attack, like if it would be with the white pieces, these are the torre moves. So yeah, just a very solid, easy setup for black, not allowing any crazy lines, which actually could happen after 1b3, but yeah, these are quite solid lines here. And there is also one f4, where d4 is recommended, and after knight f3, again, obviously a lot of good options for black, like knight f6, g6, like playing a reversed Dutch defense, for example, or just playing c5 in this position. But we recommend knight c6, which might make things a little bit more complicated for black. So if they go g3, which like is one of the common ways to go in this position, it's already dangerous for them. It's maybe hard to believe, but after h5, whatever they do, like bishop g2 or h3, black is gonna play h4, and the attack is quite dangerous. So I just put one line to illustrate this. So bishop g2 is of course logical, then h4. So we give up a pawn. We don't have to take the exchange yet, we play e5. So if the knight were to return to f3, then we have e4 with a huge tempo. So if they take, then we already accept that. I mean, not really accept, but rather sacrifice an h4, take, king f1, bishop c5. So you can see that we sacrificed an exchange. We are also down a pawn, but okay, we have pretty serious threats on f2. So white plays like e3, and we play d4. So this is one of the lines. Obviously, it continues from here, but engine is already like very, very optimistic for black, to say the least. So we play bishop g4, we castle, and we can even bring the knight. So objectively, this position is horrible for white. And yeah, this is just one of the examples how this early g3 can misfire. So there is the move e3 here, which is better. So if possible, maybe trying to go for stonewall or some b3, bishop b2 move. And also there is an unpleasant kind of threat. So white's bishop doesn't really have a lot of good squares after e3. This one is the clear target, so the course is recommending a6. Again, looks like a little bit of a strange variation, but it makes a lot of sense once you understand that, okay, now the bishop only has awkward squares. The knight cannot be pinned, so it will stay on c6. And our bishop still can be developed to f5, which, like, for example, if they want the stone wall, a bishop out on f5 is pretty much, stopping all stone wall problems because it controls the light squares. So there is no possible way to attack with white. And if they play b3, then again bishop f5 is possible. We play like e6, h6 probably, also knight f6. And the bishop is really nice here, putting some pressure, maybe sometimes knight b4 to increase that pressure. So that's the idea. So we are not playing a reversed Leningrad Dutch or some type of Dutch, but a completely independent position in a way where white will not have the advantage of more experience or anything like that. Other moves like knight c3 are covered as well. I mean, here there is not a whole lot to know. We recommend knight to f6 because it's like d4, d5 is it transposes to Chessable London, or if they play e4, then it transposes to our previous course, e4, e5. But the thing is that whatever you can also play d5, and in like e4 is coming most likely. If you are a French player, you can play e6. If you are a Caro-Kann player, you can play c6. That's all covered. And you can also play c5 here. And again, it's really tough to play without e4 when you can choose whatever you move to prefer, and it will be some close Sicilian most likely in whatever version you play or you like. So yeah, that's it. b4 is covered, g4, like such moves are covered as well, g3 also. But yeah, these are like really not difficult. Basically against everything you can play d5 and you will reach a good position. These are analyzed in the course as well. So yeah, I believe that's pretty much it. So in these 3 videos, I try to show you what you can expect from the course, like what are the goals, what we had. I believe if you watched all 3, then you can have a really good impression that what we were aiming for. And if you like this type of openings or this type of surprising lines, but still trying to limit white's options, then hopefully you will also like the course if you decide to check it out. In any case, thanks a lot for watching these videos, and thanks a lot for everyone who already decided to buy the course, and I wish you a lot of success with these lines. And yeah, if you have questions, then you can always ask those in Chessable forums. So thanks for watching.